Hey guys, Robert here with Wonder Off-Road, and I got an awesome product for you guys today. But before we get into today's video, please make sure that you are like, comment, and subscribe, and following Wonder Off-Road. Your support helps this channel grow. So, if you guys also do like this content and want to see more like it, click the link in the description below and buy me a coffee. All right guys, without further ado, let's get into it. And for you guys today, I have the Kemimoto rock lights. These are RGBW rock lights, and they're multicolored, so it's really nice for a night when you're rock crawling or just having a nice night out and want to show off a little bit. These are designed for ATVs, UTVs, and SUVs. So guys, you can install these on whatever kind of vehicle you may have. I've even seen them installed on trailers. So I'm gonna show you guys how to install them today on a 5th gen Toyota 4Runner. Let's get into it.
Hey guys, so today you're going to need a zip ties, drill, a self-tapping screws, wire cutters, a 12mm socket, a 1/4" ratchet, and a floor jack. So first you're going to start by opening the hood of your vehicle. In your kit will be included this control box, which will control the lighting function. We found that these wires were too short, so we had to cut them and splice in some bigger eyelets and a longer length of wire. Yeah, for this purpose we decided to butt connect these just to make it a little bit easier to lengthen the wire. Eventually in the future we will be going to a switch panel, but for today's video this makes it a quick and easy way to wire up some rock lights. So as you're wiring these up, you may find that you may need to grow a third arm. It's very helpful when you do have a third arm to come out and give you just a little extra hand to hold the wire together in place. So we found after we wired these together, the wires were still a little too loose because of the design. So we zip tied them just to make it a little bit cleaner for later on when we were wiring them up on the vehicle engine harness. Eventually later in the future, I will probably cut these. So for this job, we found that you will be needing a lot of zip ties, making sure that they're in various sizes, but larger I found was better on this job. But this helps keep the install a lot cleaner. You could use electrical tape and you could use heat shrink in the situation, but since we're already planning to install this with a switch panel in the future, we're just going to zip tie them for the time being. So for the 5th gen 4Runner, we found that the passenger side of the vehicle had the most amount of room to install it, making it so there's less stuff that will be on the driver's side. The driver's side tends to be already clustered already, so making the passenger side more ideal, which is why we need to lengthen the power wire to fit. Now, in order to secure the control box in the back, we found that we zip tied it to the engine harness, which makes it easier if we need to move it in the future. But for now, for this installation, it's perfect where it's at. This will help you make sure that you have plenty of room for the control box for your engine wire harness. So once we ran the wire, we then cut the rest of it to length. Make sure you give yourself plenty of extra room so you can route this around any other needs like the fuse blocks in our situation. So that way you can install this as clean as possible. I tell you, as a technician point of view, it has been a lifesaver when you take the extra time to route the wiring the right way. That way in the future, if you ever have to repair it or replace it or even diagnose it, it's easier to get to and easier to figure out where the problem may lie in the So on the harness, there is a switch that needs to be routed inside the vehicle in order to turn this lights on manually. Now this switch only is an on-off switch, but you need to run it inside the vehicle just so you can manually turn on and off the lights. It is not necessary. You could just leave it on full time and just control it with the remote app or with the remote that is included with this kit. But we found to route the wire in, it was best to use a wire hanger stretched out and cut a small slit into the weather stripping of the engine harness to guide it through. This really made an easy process for us to install this light switch. Once you've routed the switch inside, go ahead and disconnect the battery positive and battery ground to run your power. Of course, do power first and then ground out. This is a 12mm socket that you'll need, and this will ensure that the light switch panel is working properly. It's always good to test this before we install the rest of the rock lights to ensure that the switch panel is working. And it's always a great feeling when you come to see that these lights are working, which is great. We only plugged in one just to ensure that they work. And then we got the remote that came in the box. It does not come with any supplied batteries, so you need to get 2 AA batteries to use this manual remote, which I recommend keeping extras on hand. Just in case you forget your phone, this helps out so you can control your lights and make it that much easier for you while you're out on the trail. Now, we use self-tapping screws to install the lights and some wire holder to keep it out of the way from the tire. Yes, be sure you know exactly what's behind where you're screwing at. We went ahead and removed the interior panels to begin with and found that these spots where we drilled with these self-tapping screws had no wiring and no important components behind them. So we felt confident drilling in. In the future, you should use the supplied nuts, but we felt this was a much better solution for our situation right now. In the future, I may change these out and do something different, but these should work for our situation at this time. Now, we use these wire holders. You get these from AutoZone. Though, when you're doing this process, I recommend to use the floor jack to lift up the vehicle so you can drill into the body without having to take the tires off. Once you have those wires ran for the tire, then you can run the harness along the frame of the vehicle. Now, take your time doing this process and route it correctly. Make sure you're keeping this away from any hot components such as exhaust or the muffler. Anything that can melt through this wire probably will. Once you run it through, make sure that you also have plenty of zip ties ready to go. That way the wire will stay in place and not shake out. We recommend that you route this on the top for a much cleaner install, and so that way it does not get damaged from rubbing on any other components while on the trail. We recommend after installing each light, you check the operation to ensure that each light is functioning correctly and each plug is working properly. This one passes the mark. It works great, so we know that we can trust that every time we install one, it's going to work. So we found the front of the vehicle to be a little bit more challenging than the rest, only due to this is plastic we were drilling into, and we couldn't find any other component that would make a good solution. So this cover was our chosen spot to run this light on. Now, you could have run it somewhere else, but we found that this panel is much lighter and gives us much more access. So in the future, when I have to remove it for maintenance, I gave myself plenty of extra slack, so that way this panel can be moved aside and the maintenance can be performed on this vehicle. So looking from the top side, I ran the wire right there, and I use this handy grabber, and this guy really makes it a lot easier, so I can hand the wire to myself from the bottom, just so I can route this wire that much easier. Make sure when you're feeding the wire in and you securing it inside the engine area that you give yourself plenty of slack so this panel can be removed in the future for whatever reason without having to unplug the light from this connector. Now, routing the wire, it does take some time, so do not rush this process. Again, guide the wire where it needs to go and give yourself plenty of slack. In some of these lights, you may need to purchase an extension. I did for this vehicle for one of the panels. I'll include the link for that extension for this wire harness in the link in the description below. This will help to ensure that you can plug all the lights in and you can make everything look uniformed around the whole vehicle. Again, like I mentioned for the rear, it does help, and in this one you should have a jack to lift up the front of the vehicle, so that way you do not have to remove the tires. This is just to ensure that you have plenty of room to get your drill into place to install these rock lights. But before you drill, make sure you know exactly where you're going to place this and what's above when you're drilling in. You got to be extra careful that you do not nick any critical components for this vehicle. It would be a bad day if you did, I'll tell you that much. I got lucky and I made sure every time before I drilled, we did double check. So if you guys do that extra step, you'll save yourself a lot of headache in the long run. Good. This was my last connector I had to hook up. So this one, of course, being the shortest to run, this one did take a lot of extra time to make sure that the wire was routed correctly. And again, guys, be generous with your zip ties. Use as many as you need, and that way you can ensure that the wiring stays together, stays neat, and does not get caught up or burnt up by any other components around the engine bay. Also, on the control panel, there is a link for a mobile app. This will allow you to control it with your phone, so you guys can change the color settings or do many other things with it, such as increase the intensity or lower the intensity. Or in some cases, you can even sync it to your music, sync it to what's the sound around you, or just set up a random color pattern if you want. So this really makes it very customizable for exactly what you want when you're out there. And sometimes you may just want white light, but sometimes you're having a party and you want the rainbow. This is really, really handy, guys.
Hey guys, I want to thank you for watching the video this far. And if you like this content and want to see more like it, please make sure you subscribe. Also, a link for this product is in the description below as well. And if you want to get a discount on your order, use the discount code right here on your screen for 17% off your order. And remember guys, with Wonder Off-Road, you can't go wrong with that.